Hey, what's up again, everybody? It's Robert184, 2 R's, 2 B's from GundamReviews.net. And as you can see, the H3 spinning around there, we're going to see a little bit of that in action today. Sunday night, episode 30, the second of the third generation. A little bit of Kyo and a whole bunch of some new characters that are going to be making up the bridge crew of the Diva. And you'll see that not all is as we would have expected coming off the first couple generations. I think the of the weeks are going to be a little bit weak, and let's start with the main character Kyo, who really didn't have a lot of development this time. They were expanding on the other characters, outside of his resolve in front of his grandfather at the end that yes, he is going to be able to use this machine to do the great things that are seeming to be needed of him. If you're looking for an impressive debut, do not look at the worst named character. I thought Yurin was a bad name in the first generation. Anyway, wait till you hear it with the Japanese audio. Anyway, when you're checking it out, I'm going to call her Captain Natura, I suppose. Anyway, moving on, she was put in charge of the Diva at a very young age as she slipped into her uniform because it seems like the Earth Federation does not have a soft spot for Flit the old man. So anyway, outside of one person. And basically, they just put a whole bunch of misfits in charge of in the Diva, including a misfit in charge who's very young, very bright, no-ish. But whereas Bright was earnest and hard-working, and you had Grudek and some fantastic captains in Gundam, this captain is certainly shaping up to be the worst, and anyway, I'm sure she's got a long road ahead of her, but not a great, impressive debut. Let's see if she can turn things around, and whether she can do so quickly. In terms of actually coming across as looking like good characters in this episode, how about the new Taicho, the replacement for Wolf in this second generation? I'm talking about Sarek, who is going to be out there in the Clanch Custom in its Adele colors, and he has a few good moments, both being in charge, facing off with Flit when Flit says he doesn't want to follow his orders, and of course when he's dealing with a wounded comrade and a very inexperienced captain. So it's going to be quite a different dynamic than Wolf and Malaise, but anyway, it looks like this guy is going to be the only competent person on the ship, outside of some familiar faces, in their new Sol Brave squadron. Now, it shows the sad state of the episode when the character of the week is going to be somebody who only had one line and one role. Well, he had more than one line. But anyway, the new commander of the Earth Federation forces, Algreus, who was Flit's aide before, and it seems like Flit, again, has no friends except for him, because when he called him up and he said, send out the Diva, this is the only one who did, and all of his underlings certainly did everything they could to undermine him. But how great was it? And I probably wouldn't give this guy character of the week if he didn't have such an awesome voice actor. For MS of the Week, it was a good week for the Vegans, with both Zehart's Giraga and the Danazine, or the Danajine, having some pretty good solid outings there. The Danajine is going to look really cool. It's great that they go back to the Gafran in its dragon mode, and it's just going to look a lot more impressive. And I certainly like the Zaku green and the Bacto green on it. Whereas Zehart had a few good moments. He's obviously matured as a warrior, but anyway, it was great to see him where even though he was going to be hit front and back, that he was able to use his tail and his weapons, and even though he had to flee thanks to Kyo's big gun in the end. Anyway, both of these are highly anticipated high grades for me, and it'll become a proper representation of this third generation. But for the best mobile suit of the week, no, it's not the H2, but the H2 certainly influenced the new mass-produced, the Clanch for the Earth Federation, and especially the Clanch Custom here in its Adele colors, which is going to be piloted by Sarek, the Taicho. And anyway, I just thought it was a fantastic combination. It's very cool to see the transformation, and I'm not usually a fan of grunt suits, as people who have been around the site for a while know. But anyway, these third ones for both the Vegans and the Earth Federation is a fantastic addition, and I'm hoping that we're going to get them all in all the colors in high grade eventually. For Scene of the Week, and running a close second here, it just sort of shows how weak the episode was overall. But we did have a pretty good moment between the new captain, who certainly wasn't acting captain-like as she met her new squadron leader out there. And Sarek was basically able to, get his hands all over her, getting her uniform proper. But at the end of the day, he's able to give her a few words of advice, and Flit is going to offer more of the same afterwards about how everybody's lives are in her hands. So anyway, it was a good start to this relationship, and we'll see where it goes from here and whether she is going to be able to take care of the people that are in her charge. But Scene of the Week, I suppose, is going to have to go to the H3 at the end, where the Age system, with a surprise appearance by Madonna's son, who has certainly aged quite a bit. And basically, they're just going to add a whole big bunch of blaster onto the end of the already ridiculously oversized double Zeta gun that he's got there. And Kyo is going to have an interesting moment because he's going to be able to know exactly where Zehart is, send one big shot to send him sprawling off, and more importantly, get rid of the invasion fleet that was sort of coming in Avengers style. And anyway, Kyo is going to be showing some signs, and I wonder what Flit's going to be thinking about this, because Flit didn't see it, Kyo did, so are we going to have the third generation overcoming the second? Zehart may rue that possibility. Overall, I have to say that this was a pretty weak episode, certainly one of the worst, I'd say, of the series, and it's a little bit disappointing because I thought they actually had a pretty good debut to this third generation. We're getting some pretty weak characters, lots of room for growth, and you can just sort of see the Double Zeta influence. Anyway, kids are going to be kids on board the ship, along with a girlfriend, an incompetent captain, incompetent bridge crew that will eventually band together. Flit doesn't seem to have. We found out a little bit more about his backstory, including the fact that his subordinate has not betrayed them, as I've been waiting and waiting for, but instead seems to be standing by Flit right up to the end. Zahard had to beat his first retreat, and he's probably got about 20 more episodes before that's going to happen. But overall, it's a little bit sad that the best part of this episode for me was probably watching the opening a little more carefully and seeing just hints of the characters and the mobile suits that are to come. Anyway, next week we're going to be seeing some pretty good stuff, but I can't help but think, how cool would this be if they had a great captain around, and I'm talking about that guy right there. But anyway, why don't you let me know what you thought of this episode 30 compared to 29, and is this one of the weakest of the series, or is it just going to set us up for some great things to come? Of course, it's a little bit hard coming off the climax of the second generation to go back to things being slowed down, but anyway, was this just a little bit too much? Anyway, love to hear from ya. Anyway, everybody, we'll see you next Sunday. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Kyo, I don't think you know just how much you are missing out by not having these two guys around. We'll see if this guy can fill their shoes.